Welcome to the revolution. This got pulled within hours. Now, if you go to the YouTube comments, go to any clips talking about this. I mean, at least majority of them, depending on which platform, but almost every single one of the YouTube clips that are posted to discussing this conversation and talking about it in a negative light are getting ripped apart. The YouTube community, the community at large, the public voice is on Kanye's side on this, it seems like, according to all of the comment sections that I looked into. Everybody, almost every single comment was on Kanye's side, right? People are almost insulted at this point that you think that your audience, that you think the general public are so stupid that you won't even allow them to listen to the words coming out of Kanye's mouth, right? And why is that? Are you afraid of the words, or is he just crazy? And it's the same thing about COVID misinformation, right? It's the same exact thing. We don't think you're smart enough to decipher what's true and what's not true, so we're just not even going to give you the other side of the argument. Well, I think that generally means that your argument is fairly weak. And I think that's what the public is generally sick of, right? The American population is far more educated than most populations in the history of humanity. Yet you think Kanye West's opinion in a 3-hour interview where they're drinking the entire time is going to persuade somebody one way or another and convince them. That's how scary Kanye is, that they're going to convince somebody of false information based on his words, even if they wouldn't have otherwise come to that same conclusion. Right? You don't think people are able to sift through information personally? I think you should be able to listen to anything, right? You should be able to go read Mein Kampf from Adolf Hitler and decide whether his words were correct or not. Obviously, you're going to come to the same conclusion as basically everybody ever, which was, yeah, everything he did was terrible and horrible, and he's the worst person ever, and everything he did and his sentiment, I could go on. Obviously, we know that. We don't need to go into that. But you should still be able to read that book, and you can. Right? So there's a couple quotes that we'll talk about, but let's go ahead and listen to Nori, who is one of the hosts of this podcast, and him basically on his knees apologizing for how much hurt he caused the world by allowing you to listen to the words. And now go listen to that full episode and you'll see he did not feel this way at all throughout the entirety of the interview. He was laughing, he was joking, he was having a great time. And what you're going to see is the sentiment of Kanye West, between his interviews is vastly different. When he's approaching and in the conversation with Cuomo, he is in a vastly different tone of voice, a vastly different personality than he is otherwise in the other interview. He's much more loose, and he's talking from his heart in the other interview, and he's on the defensive so much in the Chris Cuomo interview that it makes it, kind of crazy to see the variations from one to the next. But let's go ahead and talk about this first. Let's listen to the apology by Nori. I think that's how you pronounce his name. And then we'll talk a little bit about some of that, the cancellation, because I think, and I posted this yesterday, and I'll just kind of quote it verbatim for you, because I truly think that this is telling. Right. I think, and this is what I said on Instagram at Red Pill Revolt. Kanye being canceled for calling out the entertainment industry after pandering to the black community for profit simply proves his point, right? So Kanye being canceled for calling out the entertainment industry elites for pandering to the black community for profit simply proves his point. You are useless to them once you stop playing along. And what I mean by that is literally by canceling Kanye's episode, by showing him that you cannot speak on this topic even. You can't even talk about this. You can't even bring this up, or you're going to get canceled, because that's what Kanye was talking about. He was getting canceled for bringing up things that you weren't supposed to talk about the mainstream media, talking about supporting Trump, talking about 2024 elections. All of those things led to him getting called crazy, him losing his children, all of this stuff. So let's go ahead and listen to this apology and see what you think.
I'm here to say I apologize to anybody who felt like I let them down. Because I did feel like I did let them down to a certain extent, because, like I said, I did check him later, but by the time I checked him, it was already kind of like too late. So I can't be mad at Baller Alert for posting the footage that I don't want them to post, because I'm not mad at them when they post the footage that I do want them to post. So I do feel let down. I do feel like I didn't do the right job, but this is a learning experience. I did not go to school for journalism, but that's not an excuse. You know what I'm saying?
So there you have it. Immediately, within a day, ripping down the YouTube. Because why? Why do you think? How many threats do you think he got from the same people that Kanye is saying are threatening his life? Right? How many industry leaders came to him and told him, if you don't take down this episode, we are going to tear you apart. You're going to lose your brand. We're going to come after you for lawsuits. All of this, right? And immediately, the only way they're taking that down. They had those guys were laughing. They were drinking together. They were having a great time. And all of a sudden, he's on his knees begging and apologizing for even hosting a conversation with somebody and letting them have a conversation about it and releasing it to the general public. If you're not afraid of what you said, why are you afraid of what somebody else said? Why would you be afraid of the things that came out of somebody else's mouth? You should let them listen to them. And if they're an idiot and they're wrong and what they're saying is a horrible thing, let people decipher that for themselves. Because if you're a terrible person, the best thing that can happen to you is people can find out about it. You can make it public. People will hear the words coming from your mouth, especially in these long-form conversations, right? If you thought I was a sociopathic idiot by now, you probably wouldn't listen to me. And so in this case with Kanye, let them listen to it. Let them hear it. Let people decide. And if they think he's a racist jerk, and if they think that the things that he's saying is wrong, then you shouldn't take that away from the people being able to decide that on their own. And the only reason that you're pulling that episode is because you're afraid of the real things that he said that called out the industry elites, that is truthful, right? If you look at some of the quotes that come out of this, George R.R. Martin said this: when you tear out a man's tongue, you are not proving him a liar. You are telling the world that you fear what he might say. When you tear out a man's tongue, you are not proving him a liar. You are telling the world that you fear what he might say. When you are censoring somebody, you are not concerned about the world realizing that that person's an idiot. You're afraid that they're going to agree with them. And that agreement's going to start movements. Right? And Kanye had a great quote. I didn't pull it, but it was a good one. Where he said, if I throw on short shorts and a tank top and I just start running, and people look at me from afar, they're going to think I'm crazy, right? If I'm sweating, if I'm dripping, I have blisters on my feet, and I'm just running by myself in short shorts and a tank top, people are going to think I'm weird. If I'm running just for 25 miles, 26 miles, right? People are going to think I'm a weirdo, right? Until my feet bleed, and they're going to think I'm crazy. But the second you throw a number on me and you put 100 people beside me also running and you call it a marathon, then nobody thinks you're crazy, right? There's power in numbers, and they know that. So they want to rip this off of the platform. They are afraid of the movement that might happen against these elitist communities at the top of the entertainment industry. They're talking about Disney, talking about the music industry, talking about several of the largest mainstream news corporations. This is a quote from Kanye from the Cuomo interview. He said 50% at least of the people that own the contracts of rappers, NBA stars, he's talking about the black community specifically, and saying that the people that are making the most money that are black are completely owned by contracts of people who are at least 50% of the time of Jewish descent. And so that's where the whole anti-Semitism conversation came up, of immediately calling him an anti-Semite for saying that the entertainment industry and the people primarily that are putting him in bad positions, and other people that are owning the black community through contract agreements, are doing so. And he said it's a modern form of slavery, which I find to be very interesting.